live, I guess. So to the credit of both the protesters and people who were not necessarily agreeing with the protesters, it really seemed to have been a pretty calm environment aside from, the protesting, but it seemed to be a pretty calm environment other than that. So I'll get that out of the way and say it was actually pretty nice to see that, I suppose. And there's something about the whole police thing, right? There's something about the whole Black Lives Matter thing that's not making a whole lot of sense to me. And as soon as you say that, someone's going to say, "Well, who are you? You're a white privileged male. You have no right to speak about these issues." Well, I mean, I kind of do, though. Is the thing. That's what the First Amendment guarantees. Plus, I'm on radio and you're not, so I can talk about whatever I want. But with the issue with the whole Black Lives Matter thing, the way that it is now, the way I see it anyway, and you're free to chime in, by the way, this is not binary. This isn't binary anymore. This is Best Shot here on News Talk Radio, AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com. You can call in, by the way, 423-800-8949. That's 423-800-8949 is the number to call in here on Hot News Talk Radio. The thing with, I think, Black Lives Matter is that it's making an issue racial in areas where it may not necessarily be. Now, is there possibly a problem with a racial bias in some police forces? I'm sure that exists. That's more than likely an existent thing that does need to be protested. So that's protested. So that's fine. I understand that part. All right. Does there seem to be a problem with a excessive use of force on in the side of the police force in some areas? Yeah, we've seen videos of that happening where we see cops who are acting perhaps out of line in the heat of the moment. So yeah, we know that happens too. But should there be an enormous worldwide movement to combat that? Well, that's another argument. Maybe, sure. Is it necessarily an exclusively black issue, though? I kind of don't think so, because we're seeing issues all the time. We're seeing cases of people who are shot by police who are not black, right? So it doesn't seem like this is a issue of it being a black thing. It seems more of it's an issue of an abuse thing. And we know police brutality happens. I don't think it happens here in Chattanooga very often at all, to be quite frank with you. I know that it has happened in the past. I know people who it's happened to. But do I think it's the norm here in Chattanooga? No, not at all. It doesn't seem to be, because anytime I've been pulled over, and I've been pulled over quite a few times, it's been pretty normal. And I have friends who are black who've been pulled over, and it's been pretty normal for them too. So it doesn't seem like there's this, you get the narrative like, oh, the racist police in Chattanooga. I don't get that. And I don't see that either. And that seems like a really hypocritical thing to say, because it's a broad generalization when the exact thing that Black Lives Matter is going against is broad generalizations. So what sense does that make exactly? I mean, honestly, what sense does that make to make a broad generalization when your whole platform is arguing against broad generalizations? And then when there are people who are also African American or black, I'm not sure exactly what the proper word is. When I was young, it was black, and I think now it's African American, but I've also been seeing people of color kicked around. I'm just going to say black because it's what I grew up with. I don't think it's an offensive term. I've never heard anyone tell me it's an offensive term, so we'll go with that. But it's odd because when there are people who are black who sort of break the narrative and say, look, not all cops are going to shoot me on sight, they get mad. Like the Black Lives Matter group gets upset at that and then uses very offensive language, words like Uncle Tom and that sort of thing. And that seems more offensive to me than a lot of the other things I'm seeing from whites who they would call racist. That what kind of narratives does that push, that now suddenly black Americans can't have their own opinions? What sense does that make? Just because you are of a certain race, now you have to carry a certain line or toe a line. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. That's like if because I'm white, I must be Republican, right? I mean, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I know lots of whites are not Republican. I'm just using that as an example. It's ridiculous. Like, just because you're white, you must now be a white supremacist. Well, no, because I'm not. So what sense does that make? The whole narrative is ridiculous. And I think that a lot of it is just because it's an organization that's trying to get off the ground and make names. It's one of those things where they're making an issue out of things that might not necessarily be as big an issue as they make them out to be. Yes, police brutality is an issue that needs to be addressed. Yes, I do think that a lot of police agencies are doing a decent job of stamping it out, because you're always going to have bad apples. Do I think that police brutality is something that should be addressed and talked about? Yeah, absolutely. That's what talk radio is for. But do I think that it's something that is constantly existent with every cop ever? No. I know too many to think that. That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's a ridiculous narrative that's being pushed, and it seems in a lot of ways racist against blacks. What I'm seeing out of Black Lives Matter, which is kind of odd, because it just doesn't make any sense. We don't live in an era like we did in the 1960s, right? Like, it's not in the 60s and 70s, right? Like, you had in Baton Rouge, the Black Panther Party was there with guns in front of the cops. And, they can do that legally. You can have a gun and you can walk around with it in Louisiana. You can open carry, and that's fine. So legally, there's not a problem there. But politically, is that the right stance to take? I was talking about this a little while ago with a friend of mine. Is this a right stance to take? Is this the right image you want to push? Right? Like, look, we're armed and we're dangerous. No, that's not the right narrative, because now you're making yourself look aggressive when that's like the complete opposite of what Martin Luther King was doing back in the 60s. And say what you will about him, I don't agree with him on everything. I agree with him on a lot of the whole racial issue, absolutely, but not on everything politically. He was a lot more socialist than I like, but I respect him as a man for sure. How can you argue with some of his arguments? You really can't. So he was right about a lot of things, and I respect the man quite a lot, and it's a shame the FBI killed him. But Martin Luther King took the pacifist approach, and you know what? It worked, because it turned the hearts of a lot of people. Well, God turned the hearts of a lot of people, but through Martin Luther King, I think a lot of people were turned and said, you know what? Blacks are no worse than I am. And that was a radical thing to say back in those times. Radical, especially in the South, radical thing to think. So it's pacifism and it's peace that's going to make people change their minds about things, not violence and hate and racially charged narratives. That doesn't seem to solve much of any problem. But what does solve problems is sitting down and saying, look, we're people. We can talk about this like reasonable people. We're not going to be loud, obnoxious. We're just going to talk like reasonable people and present our arguments, and here we are. And that's one of the things, by the way, that I really love about what David Tulis does as a journalist. And he's one of our guys here at Hot News Talk Radio, part owner and very active in journalism here in Hot News Talk Radio, and also on his own website, Nooganomics.com. No, there's a lot to learn from him. Look at how he does his journalism. It's not loud. It's not clickbait. It's not obnoxious, right? The way he does his journalism, I think, is a great example to all of us. It's very concise. It's honest. He gives his opinion sometimes, but when he's giving out the facts, he's giving them out in an unbiased way. If someone who he disagrees with says a quote, he will give that quote in full without any prejudice towards that person. And that is a value that is very rare in journalism. David Tulis does a wonderful, amazing job. I can't say enough good things about what he does journalistically and personally, too, knowing the man. Great guy, great example, too, journalistically and as a person as well. So definitely check him out, Nooganomics.com. He posts on our Facebook page, and he also has a show from time to time here on Hot News Talk Radio as well. That's David Tulis here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. And hotnewstalkradio.com as well. The Republican National Convention is certainly heating up a little bit. There were protesters burning American flags, which, again, is that the narrative you want to push? Is that the image you want to have? Because that's a violent and that's a immediately repulsive image, and it's not going to change anyone's mind. There were protesters at the Republican National Convention who were actually with the I want to get the name right. I believe it was the Revolutionary Communist League, I'm wanting to say. And they were burning flags, which obviously makes quite a few people upset. It's been found that, yeah, you can, First Amendment, all that sort of thing, but you're responsible for what happens afterwards, too. Yeah. So what happened was there were communists at the RNC who set a flag on fire, American flag on fire, I should clarify, and lots of people got upset. There was a little bit of, there's a little bit of a scuffle. The cops had to break it up. And Cleveland.com has an article about this. When usually there's an issue like this, by the way, good tip. When there's something like this that happens in a specifically local area, it's almost always a good idea to find a local website to have coverage of it, because most of the time they'll actually have real reporters on the ground interviewing real people, whereas a bigger news agency might not actually. They might just analyze local articles like this one and then give you their take on it, or a rewrite of it with permission. So it's usually a good idea to read the local articles from the area you're looking at. In Cleveland, Ohio, though, one of the protesters arrested yesterday at a staged flag burning outside the Republican National Convention in downtown Cleveland caught himself and two other demonstrators on fire, leading to a violent altercation with the police. Police Chief Calvin Williams said during an evening news conference that 18 people were arrested near the corner of East 14th Street and Prospect Avenue, two on felony charges, including assaulting a police officer. The others face misdemeanor charges of failure to disperse. Again, misdemeanor charges, that's not really a big deal, but felony assaulting a police officer definitely is. If you are convicted of a felony, obviously you can't vote, you can't own guns. These are commies, so I don't think they will. But you can't vote, you can't own guns. There are a lot of restrictions on what you can do if you are a convicted felon. So putting yourself in a position where you can be convicted of a felony, really not a good idea. This is Best Shot here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com. The number to call in here is 423-800-8949. That's 423-800-8949 is the number to call in here at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com. As well, the demonstrators refused to leave the area on police orders, and one began to set on fire an American flag, the chief says. When the protesters' pants caught on fire, karma? Maybe. An officer stepped in to extinguish the flames, according to Cleveland.com, and the protester tried to keep the burning flag away from the officer, and in doing so, lit two other demonstrators on fire as well. So perhaps there's a little bit of karma going on, if you believe in that. A Cleveland police supervisor and an Ohio state trooper were pushed and punched during the altercation. They both suffered minor injuries, Williams says. No one required medical treatment, however, he did admit. A witness to the protest said that Gregory Lee Johnson lit the flag on fire. He's now demanding that he be released from custody. He's famous for a legal battle that set a U.S. Supreme Court precedent in 1989 that says that burning an American flag is protected speech. So he's actually responsible for that being a legal thing now, which is kind of interesting. And there he goes doing it again. So yes, it is under the Supreme Court ruling protected speech. Is it something that you should do? No. Is it something that you should do when you know it's going to cause a ruckus? Definitely not. Is it something that you should do around a lot of cops, set things on fire? No. There's not a whole lot of brain cells going on here. I'm not seeing a whole lot of brain cells to rub together from the Revolutionary Communist Party. That's the name of the group that was there. The Revolutionary Communist Party signs at the scene were also marked as evidence. The group says that they support neither Donald Trump nor Hillary Clinton, and that they hope to completely rebuild society. How they plan to do that, I'm not sure. Communists usually want to seize the means of production. How would they plan to seize the means of production? Well, probably violently. So how are they going to pull that off? Well, probably violently. I wouldn't trust the Revolutionary Communist Party here in America, quite frankly. Yeah, they can demonstrate if they want to, but they also have to face the consequences for, punching cops, because that's definitely not legal. They say that what happened today is Joey Johnson burned an American flag. As the flag began to go up in flames, they vamped on Joey. They vamped on Joey, and they vamped on the people he was with. I've never seen that. I've never seen vamped used as a verb before for something like that happening. That's weird. So again, we have two examples of leftists, well, presumed leftists. I don't know if Black Lives Matter is 100% leftist, but two cases of leftists causing a ruckus and totally delegitimizing any political sway that they ever had. Because violence is not the answer when you're talking about genuine political speech, right? Like, violence is almost never the answer when you're trying to sway people towards your direction. If you want to genuinely sway people to see what you want them to see, doing it violently is not the best way to garner a genuine response, right? Like, if I want someone to give me money, they're not going to genuinely want to do it out of their own goodwill if I point a gun at them. That's usually not how it works. So the same thing applies with politics. If I want someone to vote a certain way, threatening them is usually not the best way to get that to work. Now, there are fear tactics, obviously, but when it comes to Getting someone to vote the way you want, usually threatening them with violence, is not the best way to make sure that they support you 100% and don't vote against you the next time. It's ridiculous. It seems like there's next to no thought that goes into half of these demonstrations we see. It's just like unorganized, disorganized crap, and that describes most of actually what we see in American politics these days. But oh well. You know, the Twitter has been blowing up here at Hot News Talk Radio. The Hot News Talk Radio Twitter has been pretty active. And one of the things we've been talking about, of course, is the Black Lives Matter demonstrators in downtown Chattanooga, which were blocking a road, which, you know, downtown, the traffic's always bad enough. In fact, the traffic in Chattanooga is bad enough anyway, whether it be rush hour or not. Why in the world would you block a road? And what narrative are you pushing there? This, again, doesn't really make you look very good in the public eye. If you block a road when people are trying to drive on it, that's usually not a good idea, because now you're just going to make people angry at you, and they're not going to be swayed to your position no matter what you do now, because you've blocked a road. You've made these people upset. They can't do their daily commute, and now they're just going to hate you for the rest of your life. So what's the point exactly? What have you gained by doing this? Not much of anything. You've definitely made people upset at you, but have you actually achieved a goal that you were hoping to? No, not at all. What exactly have they built? Can you name one thing? Whose mind have they changed? Can you name one mind? What actual genuine political discourse has been caused by this? And what political change has been caused by this? Can you name anything? No. These people are, and I'm not talking about blacks in general, obviously. I'm speaking exclusively about Black Lives Matter here, because there are plenty of white protesters there too. This is not a racial thing. This is an organizational thing. Black Lives Matter is an instigatory group. It's there to create tension. It's there to create a level of discourse that's very violent and angry. It's there to act divisively. And yes, it gets funding from people who are very much bigwigs and people who Black Lives Matter would otherwise be protesting against, except they get money from them. Obviously, they're not politically genuine. It's just there to create strife. It's there to create division in our country. And what do we need right now? Not division. They talk about unity, they preach unity, but are they bringing it? No. I'd be happy to talk to anyone from Black Lives Matter, and have a genuine conversation with them that doesn't resort to name calling and yelling and shouting and screaming. But do you think that's actually going to happen? Probably not, because that's not the level of discourse they operate on. The level of discourse they operate on tends to be rather uneducated and tends to just be this continued leftist narrative that look how victimized we are. But I'm not seeing that very often. I'm not getting that from what I observe in the news. Again, yes, police brutality is a real issue. It's a real problem. Yes, racism is a real issue and a real problem. But is it exclusively blacks who are being victimized? No, not by a long shot. Maybe we should look at the issue of black on black crime, because that's a real problem. Maybe Black Lives Matter should be preaching in the city. Maybe Black Lives Matter should be trying to make a change within the black community in the inner city, because that's an area that does need help. I genuinely want people to help these people. I would be standing alongside them if they were protesting, or if they were demonstrating, giving out food, if they were saying, look, peace is the way, in a gang-ridden neighborhood. And I don't mean to be racist, but it is true that a lot of the gangs downtown happen to be in this area black, just like a lot of the gangs in southern Texas happen to be Mexican. A lot of the gangs in South Boston are Irish. A lot of the gangs in New York are Russian. It's not necessarily a racial thing. But in this case, Black Lives Matter could be making a big difference in the inner city with the gang-ridden neighborhoods. Why aren't they? That's the real issue. And again, if they were doing that, I'd be alongside them helping. But instead, it's all, well, look at how victimized we are. Why not try to make a difference instead of complaining? Make a difference. You can do it. You have the power. Individuals have the power to make a difference in their own neighborhoods, but instead, let's walk around in the streets and wave around signs. What good is that going to do you? What's that going to accomplish long term? Are people going to remember Black Lives Matter as that organization that changed the world, that changed how we see race in America, that changed how the inner city operates? Or is it just going to be seen as that annoying organization that blocked the road and kept me from going to work? Is there an answer to that question? I think there is. It's going to be seen as that organization that caused me to be late for work. And that's not the narrative that they want to push. But unfortunately, that's what's being pushed. It's not working out for them because their mission is misguided. I wish it wasn't. I really do. I wish the best for the inner cities, and I wish the best for the gang-ridden neighborhoods. I wish they could be fixed. But it seems like not enough is being done. Not enough evangelizing, enough preaching, enough goodwill. Right? That's what Jesus calls for. Is it happening? I'm not seeing it. This is Best Shot here on Hot News Talk Radio.
News Talk 1240 AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your chance to win $124 in cash and $124 in food every week with the Hot News Talk Radio 1, 2, 3 NASCAR contest. Hot News Talk 1240. All you have to do is guess who's going to be first, second, and third place in the upcoming NASCAR Sprint Cup race. If you guess it, you'll hear your name live Monday morning at 11:30. Then call AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio to win. Enter your guess right now at Rick Davis Golden Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. Wimpy's Restaurant in Soddy Daisy across from City Hall. Diesel Off-Road Technology Soddy Daisy. For your four-wheel drive and truck needs. Stuff and upholstery with premium rubber foam. Cell Surgeon, the Broken Screen Dock. And Shooter's Supply, 4824 Hickson Pike in Hickson. Hot News Talk 1240. Enter your guesses now and listen to the race live to win $124 in cash and $124 in food from Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station. Hot News Talk 1240. I love NASCAR. They're soaring worldwide. Prices for gold and silver are soaring worldwide. Rick Davis wants you to take advantage of them. Go to Rick Davis right now. Rick Davis Gold and Silver. Get yours today. Your cash, and more cash. Go ahead, take advantage of them. Gold is soaring past $1,350 an ounce. That's 1,350 an ounce. Silver is out of this world too. Buy and sell at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Gold, silver, jewelry, rings, watches. Rick Davis has got what you want. Right on. Cash, and more cash. Rick Davis has got so much cash it's as tall as a billboard. And he wants to stuff it in your pocket. Cash, and more cash. Yours for the asking. Come on in today and watch metals rise up as high as Rick's billboard. Rick Davis Gold and Diamond, 5301 Brainerd Road. You know where it is. Come get your cash, and more cash.
Rubber's tough, but foam rubber is soft. Foam rubber is the star at Stuff It Upholstery, which uses it to revive your couch, your embarrassing easy chair, your boat seat cushions. Stuff It Foam Rubber in Hickson covers Chattanooga and surrounding areas. Don't throw out that favorite easy chair that's grown haggard and barbaric. New life for your seat cushions. Premium auto-grade rubber foam for your restaurant, church, or business. Stuff It Upholstery brings comfort and relief. Go ahead, skid away from flat, dull, and droopy cushions. Relax, restore, revive. When comfort matters, stuff it. 4608 Hickson Pike, 877-1616. Ask for Larry. That's 877-1616.
This is County Commissioner Marty Haynes, and I'm running to be your next assessor of property. As a local businessman, I've built a successful career understanding the value of a dollar and doing more with less. As County Commissioner, I fought for a conservative government that has not raised property taxes on anyone, especially seniors. My pledge to you is that property assessments remain fair and accurate while improving services in the office. I'm Marty Haynes. I'm the Republican nominee for Assessor of Property. I'm asking for your vote in this important election.
Paid for by the committee to elect Marty Haynes. Donnie Hutcherson, Treasurer.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Hear it live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station. Hot News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Hamilton County Sheriff's Office deputies chased a felon all the way from Highway 153 down to Whitfield County, Georgia. The suspect was spotted driving a stolen car on Bonnie Oaks Drive, and then when the car sped off, police gave chase after attempting to stop him once. The suspect went all the way down to Georgia. The Georgia State Patrol assisted. They managed to pull him over and stop him. His car wrecked in the process. The suspect was arrested, and so was a female passenger. The driver's been charged with possession of a stolen vehicle, felony reckless endangerment, and felony evading. You're going to be able to buy your brews at Aldi soon. They've applied for beer permits and have gotten them. The stores also have special scanners to check ID cards, so no fake IDs will be going through Aldi. This is thanks to a law that went into effect on July the 1st that allowed the sale of alcohol at grocery stores. Well, if you're worried about the Tennessee Valley running out of water, don't. Dorothy Rader with the Tennessee American Water says there has never been a time that we've had a lack of water supply in the Tennessee Valley. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Chattanooga is one of those cities where you don't have to pay a whole lot of money to see some cool stuff, and that's evidenced on our Facebook page. One of the things that we posted on here, more Chattanooga Nights. It was a live stream that we did 13 hours ago, but don't worry, you didn't miss anything. You can still watch it on Hot News Talk Radio's Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/Hot News 1240, or go on Facebook and search for Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240, where you can watch all of our posts on Hot News Talk Radio. We do exclusive live streams. We do exclusive content only on the Hot News Talk Radio Facebook page. It is a scorching day today. It's already, what temperature is it? I can actually tell you because I still have that. I still have my weather app open here in the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. It's a scorching day today. It's already 82 degrees and it's only 11:32 past the hour here at Hot News Talk Radio. Already 82 degrees here in Chattanooga, and I feel like I'm melting just in the studio here. It's ridiculous. It's way too hot. I'm not a fan, but that's just how it is. We've got on the line, by the way, Sam Jordan. Sam, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Sam, thanks for calling in. So you're at the you're still at the Republican National Convention?
No, we've made our way back to our home base. We've had an enjoyable time. Quite a different experience altogether. I mean, as far as covering the convention and stuff, and how everything is getting all boxed up, and everybody's looking to head down to Philadelphia for the Democratic convention that starts this coming week.
So you're going to be at the Democratic convention as well, is that right?
No, one convention is enough for me.
I don't blame you. So last we talked, Melania had not yet given her speech, and then when she does, we hear word that maybe little bits of it were maybe taken from other parts of Michelle Obama's speech. What was the environment like on the ground at the RNC? Because I know it's a little bit separated from what we see in mass media from what you see there. Was there any sort of reaction to that on the ground at the RNC?
There was some reaction to it. There was a lot of similarities as far as with the wording and everything, which, may hinge on plagiarism, but I don't think that intent was necessarily there. And when you talk with other people at the convention, I guess similarities would have been more the better adjective to use than necessarily plagiarism.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Plus, it seemed, one thing I did notice, though, is that the media seemed to treat Melania pretty well. It was more focused on whoever wrote her speech. So actually, they didn't really resort to personal attacks very much, at least from what I saw. So that was a plus, I suppose. But in terms of...
there's been speeches throughout the years that kind of go back, but usually you have attributions, to that particular speaker, even though that wasn't the case here with Ms. Trump's speech. I guess flattery, as far as imitation goes, but the Democrats just looking to find that jab, I guess, to get in there on the Republicans, rather, to, keep a focus not necessarily toward all the Republicans and everything. And I'm sure that the Republicans will probably do the same thing next week, and they will probably be scrutinizing every last word that the Democrats have to say, whether it's from their speech makers or from the presumptive nominee in this point.
Yeah, it's just the natural political process. One thing that we saw, by the way, I think the day after we talked to you, there was a big big deal with the Revolutionary Communist Party setting a flag on fire, at least trying to, and then they accidentally set themselves on fire. There was an altercation with police. Did you get any view of what happened there?
No, I wasn't able to. I did hear about it. I think probably the biggest buzz that we were able to witness was the 100 nude women that was there on Monday protesting just down the street from where the Black Lives Matter people were. And that probably caused more buzz until Ted Cruz's speech the other night. And, for the most part, the protesters really didn't, cause a whole lot of news or anything. Yeah, the kind of protesters right now are the Black Lives Matter people, but for the most part, it was pretty well, quiet.
Did you say
They
100? Did you say 100 nude women?
Wasn't a big issue.
Did you say 100 nude women were there?
100 nude women were there, basically protesting Trump and the candidacy there. Evidently, democratically supported and everything. The women were trying to make a statement on a couple of fronts, and they had mirrors that covered their chest area, so it wasn't totally nude. I mean, you weren't looking at naked breast or anything like that, but the mirrors were appropriately placed where it covered up a lot of the frontal anatomy of a female.
So you found a nice time for a little bit of reflection there while they were protesting, I guess.
That was their point they were trying to make.
Great. So the the Ted Cruz speech caused a lot of fervor, particularly because there's video of him at one of the debates saying that he would endorse Donald Trump if he were the nominee, and then there he was not endorsing Donald Trump when he's the nominee. What was the reaction to that on the ground?
A lot of people think that Ted Cruz may have committed political suicide by not coming out and supporting Donald Trump. But he wasn't the only one. I mean, John Kasich did not come out and support him, and there was a couple other key Republicans that had not came out and gotten behind the Republican pledge in supporting the nominee. And, with Cruz being the only one that basically was in the spotlight and everything, Kasich you thought would have been on the appearance list, but they knew that Kasich would not come out and support Trump, and evidently Cruz didn't give any indication whether he would or wouldn't, and they kept him on the agenda as far as being one of the speech makers, but his verbiage and everything basically led a lot of people to believe that he was not supporting Trump. He didn't come right out and say it. And some of his comments and everything may have turned a lot of people off to Ted Cruz. Now, Cruz, had a lot of delegates and everything that were behind him and everything, but, it basically, the vote came down in one fell swoop and Trump was it. So, it may hurt Cruz's chances, being a senator from Texas. Maybe not, but it'll be interesting to see the next time that he's up for re-election in Texas, whether or not the Republican Party is going to get behind him.
Yeah, he had a lot of backing in Texas, and it was pretty neck and neck between Cruz and Trump, and it seems, I think you're right, it's sort of a political seppuku on the side of Ted Cruz, and it was a rallying point for Trump supporters as well, and maybe even turned some people over to Trump just as a result of Ted Cruz's speech there. It seemed a little bit maybe disingenuous the way he pulled it off there, saying, yeah, I'll support him, and then actually never mind. It seems a little bit, I don't know, plus it's a violation of the Republican pledge as well, apparently. So not a good move on his part. In terms of the speech of the Trump children, did you see any of that yourself? What's your take on Trump's kids? They're sort of more in the spotlight now.
Well, I think with Trump's son, I think that he could be an interesting character of sorts. That great businessman and everything, but you never heard any of the Trump kids say about how true of a father figure that he has been to them, which I think was kind of interesting, to say the least. A couple of the Trump kids spoke, but, they talked mostly about how successful the father had been, but not how successful the father is or has been, through their lives. That, I think, was probably an understatement there, of not hearing that as much.
I think a lot of that was covered, though, in private interviews with different media outlets. I saw one particular interview with Ivanka where she talked about how her father would write encouraging messages in all of her report cards. So maybe that wasn't covered so much at the RNC itself, but that's been getting quite a bit of coverage just from different media outlets interviewing them on an individual level. So it has been,
Right.
I've noticed that too. It had been a little bit underreported at the actual convention, which was an interesting political move. It's interesting,
Yeah,
though,
I don't know
how
whether Paul Manafort and his team that have been guiding Trump along, felt that really needed to be addressed on a national scale or not in the setting of the primetime coverage and everything. But, like you said, I mean, a lot of other organizations or publications kind of hit on that as a side story and everything. So, I'm sure that Mr. Trump is a good father figure, but it will be
yeah, I think that
interesting to see, whether we see that play out more as we head toward November.
November's going to be the real kicker, obviously. And what's your take on just the general perception of Trump now before the convention versus after?
Well, I think Trump, his strongest points were when he did have the 4 or 5 candidates there toward the end. It's just been kind of rather quiet until we came up on the convention. I think, looking back at this, he may have been looking ahead, like a lot of sports teams, they kind of look ahead and they kind of miss who is actually, trying to be competitive with them. I don't think the Democrats, so much so, coming up with this convention here, I really thought that Bernie Sanders would have stayed at least through the convention. But there was probably some backroom deals that were made and everything that would solidify Mr. Sanders, with possibly having a bigger role down the road, possibly. But, you would have thought that maybe with Cruz on the Republican side, or even with John Kasich. Kasich, stayed in there, I think, more as a principal thing. But I did find it kind of odd that Mr. Kasich, did not get to have an important role in the convention, even in his home state of Ohio.
Yeah, that's another thing, too, because he is the governor. I guess he was focusing more on just being a governor, because we heard his response to the head of the Fraternal Order of Police in Ohio, asking that open carry laws be suspended and a state of emergency be declared, in case it basically just said no. So he has been there behind the scenes. Something that was interesting, too, about Ted Cruz is people were really pushing for him, or at least I saw a few people saying that he would make for a good Supreme Court justice. And with Trump being in charge of appointing Supreme Court justices, after this move, that seems pretty unlikely.
Yeah, it very much does. And like I said earlier, if Mr. Cruz is able to have any place in the political sector on the national scene, I think that pretty much has went out the window with all the dirty dishwater and stuff. And Cruz, probably is just going to try to hang on to what he's got. When it comes down to committee actions or selections, he may be pushed back. I've got a strong suspicion about that.
Yeah, I'm getting the feeling that you're right there. Well, we're going to have to wait and see for November how the election turns out. But up until then, it's going to be a extremely exciting debate. Definitely good for radio. The campaigns on both sides are going to be good to cover. Sam Jordan from the ground at the RNC, now back in Philly. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. And I still look for a third-party candidate to come out of this from Tennessee area named Sam Cupelli. If that happens, look out, United States. We are going to head to the deep end.
He's got my full backing if he does. Sam Jordan, thanks for joining us.
All right, have a good day.
You too. Yeah, if he does make a third-party run, hey, I think I'm actually obligated by my occupation to back him. Oh, well. Number to call in, 423-800-8949, 423-800-8949. You heard it there, live from the ground in Cleveland. Seems like the nude protesters caused a bit of a shakeup. Really, that didn't seem to be in the news too much, as opposed to the Revolutionary Communist Party burning unsuccessfully, I'll add, an American flag, and then ended up burning themselves, both figuratively and literally. Two of them charged with felony charges now, and one of them was assaulting a police officer and misdemeanor failure to disperse. So definitely not in the favor of the Revolutionary Communist Party. Who knows how they'll be seen in the history books down the line. Speaking of the history books, this Republican National Convention is definitely one for the history books, and I think the Democratic National Convention will be one for the history books as well. We're waiting to see how that's going to be. In fact, that's coming up soon. Chronologically, coming up soon here is the Democratic National Convention, during which Hillary Clinton will introduce whoever she's picked for running mate. We've heard rumblings about it being Elizabeth Warren. Now there seems to be a newcomer on the stage as well. Who's Hillary Clinton going to pick? What's Bernie Sanders going to play in terms of a role in the Democratic Party? I think Ted Cruz on the Republican side has committed sort of a political seppuku. Is he going to even get the election for senator from Texas again next election season? We'll have to wait and see, but I think Cruz may have killed himself politically. Maybe he wanted to do that. I will say in his favor, though, he did stick behind his own ethics. He stayed true to himself the entire time. So to his credit, he did do that. I'm certainly not bashing Ted Cruz myself, but in terms of politics, I don't think things are going to work out too well for him, the senator from Texas. Oh, well. Donald Trump, though, now he's on his own, along with Mike Pence, campaigning together now. Going to make some campaign stops in various different states. Once he hits Tennessee and Georgia, we'll tell you more about it here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and hotnewstalkradio.com. We're going to bring you more election coverage from a local perspective here on Hot News Talk Radio, which raises the question, what do we think the political candidates are going to do for us locally, right? Because on the national level, yeah, it matters marginally to us, but locally, I'm not sure. How do you think things are going to play out? Number to call in is 423-800-8949. That's the number to call in is 423-800-8949. By the way, if you want to watch back on the interview with Sam Jordan, you can do that on YouTube as soon as 12 o'clock hour runs over. You can get us on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search for Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. You can actually watch the interview back again and the rest of the show as well on Facebook as well. We'll post the video isolated on Facebook. Speaking of the Facebook, we've been very active on Facebook with some very inflammatory posts, but also some pretty cool ones too. Chattanooga is always a great city for just hanging out, chilling out, and not spending a whole lot of money to do it. And one thing that you can always count on is interesting characters on the walking bridge in Chattanooga. It seems like there's always someone interesting doing something interesting, in which case there was someone playing the sousaphone, I'm wanting to say, in a video that we posted, a live stream on Hot News Talk Radio. Also just general walking around downtown. We have a video from yesterday of a signing of the back of a driver's license to show that you're an organ donor. And actually, my driver's license is a little bit different from Tennessee ones. In Georgia, we've got the vertical driver's licenses, and I actually don't have the option for organ donation to sign on the back of my driver's license, so that exempted me, I guess. But all these stores, by the way, here locally, whether you like it or not, as of July the 1st, you can buy alcohol at grocery stores beyond just wine. You can now buy beer as well at grocery stores here locally. And Aldi just recently got its beer permit from the Chattanooga Beer Board. And the Chattanooga Beer Board itself has some new members on it as well. So exciting stuff happening here locally for those of us who do drink beer. If you don't, that's all right, but you don't have to shop and buy it there anyway. So it all sort of works out. Those of us who do buy it can. Those of you who don't have to. So it all sort of works out. As of July the 1st, all these stores were able to sell it, and now they have their actual permit to do so. So now these stores can buy and sell can buy and sell beer on location at different grocery stores here in Chattanooga. So interesting stuff. Very exciting. Hey, by the way, it's been a basically scorching climate that we've had here in Chattanooga. I've been burning alive. I don't know about you. I'm not built for the heat. I know I'm a Southerner and all that good stuff, but I am not built for this temperature. I feel like I'm going to die or at least melt. I'll become a little bit shorter than I was before. But there is good news. There's a little bit of rain coming up here soon. This weekend, next week. This weekend and next week, I should say. Rain expected, and temperatures should be cooling off a little bit along with that rain that could be coming in. That's a weather update from us here at the Weather Center, Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and hotnewstalkradio.com as well. One cool thing, by the way, go to the Bloom Sky app on your smartphone. That's BLOOM Sky, Bloom Sky app on your smartphone, and you can actually watch the weather live and get a cool time lapse of what the weather was like yesterday on Hot News Talk Radio. I love time lapse stuff. I love the weather, so it always interests me. You can go to Bloom Sky. It's actually from us here at Hot News Talk Radio. You can watch the sky live at Hot News Talk Radio's Weather Cam, Bloom Sky app. You can also watch our live webcam here at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, hotnewstalkradio.com. All you got to do is go to YouTube and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Our live camera will pop up there. You can see us in the studio, Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube and on Facebook and the TuneIn Radio app as well. And we've been seeing now Black Lives Matter rally that blocked downtown Chattanooga streets. A very small crowd of only about 50 protesters shut down the biggest intersection in downtown Chattanooga. How exactly is that legal? I don't think it is, even with a with a permit, right, to demonstrate. I don't think that that's even slightly legal to block a major intersection downtown. And what kind of message does that push exactly? Probably not a particularly positive one. One of the hottest nights of the summer, apparently, a small crowd of about 50 protesters, according to the Times Free Press, shut down the biggest intersection downtown Chattanooga. The group, organized by Concerned Citizens for Justice, sang out gospel tunes in unison, invoking the need for love and peace, but many of their chants were shouted in anger as well. Some of them shouting, "No justice, no peace, no racist police." Protesters were screaming as they walked in a circle, occupying the crosswalks of both 4th and Broad Streets, basically one of the busiest intersections downtown. And then they gathered in Miller Park as well beforehand, before they started to march. And really, what's the point? I would say, what narrative does this push, and is this going to make anyone convinced of your cause? Probably not. It just makes people angry. Think about Memphis and Atlanta, right? In Memphis, you had people who were blocking the interstate, and in Atlanta, you had people blocking some of the on-ramps from Williams Street to 75. And being familiar with Atlanta, I can tell you that's a busy intersection, even at night, especially at night. I have a friend who lives right near Williams Street, about a mile away from the protest, and he was telling me how it was a chaos zone. Yeah, it was peaceful, but traffic was backed up for miles. They had to call in people to route traffic. It was a mess. Route traffic, I should say. It was a mess. What does this accomplish exactly? Can you name one thing Black Lives Matter has actually accomplished on the political spectrum? Can you name one thing Black Lives Matter has actually caused for the good for the black community? If you can name and point out a unified black community, which I would argue there might not even be one. I can't think of anything positive that it's done. I really can't. And I'd be happy to talk to anyone who has a differing opinion, because you know what? We have a stance here at Hot News Talk Radio that's a little bit radical. It's a little bit different, and that is this. While I may disagree with your opinion, I will defend to the death your right to express it. And that's something from Voltaire. Really, and I truly believe that. While I don't necessarily agree with Black Lives Matter, they absolutely have the right to express their opinion in any way they want. Now, blocking an intersection and breaking the law is not the right way to do it. But can they post on Facebook? Can they discuss things amongst themselves? Can they tell me what they think? Yeah, absolutely. This has been Best Shot here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, hotnewstalkradio.com. Colin Cowherd up next, one of the best sports shows on the planet. Colin Cowherd up next. But the best local sports show, of course, is Clutch with Keon Rose every weekday here from 6 to 7. Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and Hot News Talk Radio again. Thanks, Sam Jordan, for calling in from the Republican National Convention. Really exciting times here politically.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Finding just the right place to live can be a daunting task. Stop your search. In Chattanooga, the place to live is Cross Creek Villas for under $1,000 and available for immediate move-in. You can enjoy this 2-bedroom split layout, over 1,000 square feet, 9-foot ceilings, an extra-large patio or balcony. And don't forget to ask about their preferred employer program. Cross Creek Villas is a gated community offering a 24-hour fitness facility, a beautiful pool and hot tub, and Cross Creek Villas is pet-friendly. Stroll the pet park with your best friend and enjoy the free use of their business center and clubhouse. Plus, if you mention you heard this on the radio, your application fee is free. Cross Creek Villas, close to downtown off of Highway 58. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com. That's crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. That's 894-0446. Redefine the way you live at Cross Creek Villas. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. Cross Creek Villas.
How do we get the next generation to love firearms and the defense of liberty? Well, we hunt, we plink, we shoot, we collect Winchesters. We talk about the right to bear arms. Shooter's Supply and Indoor Range in Hickson is here to help you. To save money on ammo, check out Shooter's Supply Laser Simulator Range. Great place for birthday parties, special events, group training. Do the zombie apocalypse. Get your children involved in live fire with a family membership at Shooter's Supply. Defend women and children. Sound like a strange idea? Well, take a concealed carry class, get your permit, and be the confident man of courage. That is the armed citizen. Shooter Supply and Indoor Range on Hickson Pike, right near the mall. 875-4868. Repairs, transfers, huge selection of firearms. 875-4868. Stop by.
NMLS 2239. Listen up, y'all. Ben Phillips Home Rate Mortgage, 805-9100. I'm in the business of saving people money. And if you want to save money, pick that cell phone up right now. 805-9100. I received a call that I won't forget. A family of 5. The husband's a TVA engineer. Financial stress was rising from medical bills and children in college. We lowered their rate, paid off their bills, and saved them $800.